Welcome back to Underlab. Undertale has 3 distinct endings: the genocide ending, the neutral ending, and the true pacifist ending. The neutral ending is unique in that it has several variations that can occur depending on our actions throughout our journey, which Sans will describe to us. There's one ending in particular, however, that seems to type the majority of loose ends: the true pacifist ending. Therefore, it's regarded by many to be the true ending of the game. Now, I'm not one to disagree with that notion, but it seems to me that the true pacifist ending is perhaps just a little too idealistic. Everything happens how we'd want it to, and it seems like the monster's concerns are finally over. However, 1 or 2 giant questions are left unanswered, and so with those in mind, I'll be examining whether Undertale's true pacifist ending is really as happy as it seems. Upon finishing the game, the barrier is shattered and monster kind is allowed free of the underground. It's what they've wanted for however long they've been stuck down there, and so it seems like their wish was finally granted. With the exception of Asriel/Flowey, everyone gets to enjoy a happy ending. You could only imagine how nice it would be to see the sun after years of not even knowing what it looks like. We're given the choice of whether we want to be the ambassador to humanity, and whether we will stay with Toriel or go on our own path, and that's that. The rest of the ending depicts the monsters enjoying what appears to be human civilization, with one curious exception. There appears to be no humans. Surely there should be at least 1 or 2 walking alongside the monsters, right? But there isn't. Now we could just disregard any possibility and simply say that Toby chose not to put any additional humans in the game during the end sequence. There may be no real reason for it, that's just how it ended up looking. But it occurred to me that there's several dilemmas that even the true pacifist ending doesn't really resolve, which may or may not explain what's going on here. For starters, the monster's 2 choices for ambassador is either Frisk or Papyrus. Frisk is a child who certainly has no experience with such matters, other than an uncanny ability to dodge attacks and stay on the good side of monsters. Papyrus, meanwhile, has centered his entire life around attempting to capture humans. He's probably the least able monster on the planet for matters of diplomacy. Now let's not forget that the monsters engaged in a war so severe with humanity that it concluded with the humans sealing their entire race underground. That's a pretty extreme thing to do, all things considered. Can we really believe that the humans and monsters made up so easily? Was that ever even the intention? The monsters wanted to be free of the underground. Not all of them actively sought peace with the humans. I can imagine many of them would actually be resentful, considering what happened to them. Frisk's actions alone hardly seem like they would redeem the entirety of humanity in the eyes of monster kind. So, in the ending, is what we see really due to peace with humans, or is it something else? Now, I'm not inclined to believe that the moment the monsters reached the surface, they went to war with humanity again. After all, whether they were successful or not, there were attempts at diplomacy, as evidenced by asking Frisk to be the ambassador of monster kind. But is it possible that the monsters have avoided coming into contact with the humans ever since they reached the surface? There's several small pieces of evidence that could indicate they have. It's worth considering that Mount Ebert is a place that almost no human seems willing to go to. It appears to be in the middle of nowhere, an absolute wilderness. For all we know, it could even be on an island, separate from the mainland and human civilization. That means if the monsters ended up living somewhere so remote and distant from humanity, were the diplomacy efforts to fail, they could simply live in isolation around Mount Ebert. When near the core, we encounter Metaton Resort. It's clear that Metaton is inspired by modern human architecture. That means the skyscrapers and city environment we see in the ending could simply be a home for monsters that Metaton had a hand in planning out. With the humans nowhere to be seen in the ending, this sounds more plausible than it may have done at first. Though they're not quite as good as humans at destroying things, the monsters possess the ability to use magic, which could mean they're a fair deal better at creating things. This could explain how a sprawling urban landscape was built so quickly. Now remember, this is purely a theory based on the information we can derive from what exists in-game. It isn't 100% facts, it's just a possible explanation of the aftermath of Undertale. Many things could have happened past the ending, but we'll never know exactly what unless Undertale 2 comes into existence. Anyhow, you may be wondering what the implications of all this means. Oh, and before I continue, I'm aware of the building in the top right there. To me it resembles a castle, so it could just be ruins long abandoned, though it could also be a set of skyscrapers, which completely debunks this. Anyhow, moving on. If peace with the humans was never truly achieved, then that could very well be the plot of Undertale 2 in the making, if it's ever to be made. After all, how would you go about explaining that a race of monstrous creatures that have been trapped underground for years now want to be your friends? Frisk, or Papyrus for that matter, certainly have a difficult task ahead of them. That is, of course, if the true pacifist ending is the canonical ending of the game. If we first complete the genocide path before the true pacifist route, Frisk resembles Chara, or Kara, at the end of the game, and this implies that everyone was killed. Now strangely, I don't think this makes for a very satisfying ending, or for a good potential sequel, so I very much doubt that were it to ever be made, this would be the ending it follows on from. However, it's worth noting that this is technically the ending you get for 100% completion of Undertale. Most games reward their dedicated players, not punish them. But I suppose Undertale's narrative is a unique one. So for now, we'll say that without a doubt, the true pacifist route without the influence of the genocide route is the true ending of the game. There's two reasons why I believe Undertale's ending could be hinting at bigger things to come, or simply leaves room for them. Firstly, Undertale is a game full of subversions. Rarely does what you'd expect from a traditional RPG happen, so a bright and happy ending seems a bit out of place. The possibility of something more being hinted at here doesn't seem too outlandish. Secondly, Asriel was given a very unhappy end. It's possible that this is part of some deeper moral message, but who knows, perhaps we'll resolve his fate another time. Then of course there's the deep mystery involving Sans and Gaster, and the occasional patch Undertale receives. There could very well be a huge addition to the end of the game on the horizon. We can only wait and see. Thanks for watching. If you have any suggestions about what could be happening at the end of the game, feel free to share them. Maybe the ending simply takes place during the annual Monster Pride March, which explains why there's no humans to be seen. We could discuss the end of the game forever, though inevitably that would delve into fanfiction. So I'd rather not. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.